All right, I'm back with another video, and this time I'm looking at Australian composer Lisa Young, and the song is called Tarin Tar. So we're going to start by having a look at a few things you might need to know before we can get into some analysis. So the first is this idea of the conical. So if we read up here, that I like this bit here, conical is South Indian vocal percussion. And the way I like to think about it is that if I was teaching a drummer how to play a drum beat on a drum kit, I would go, it goes boom, ka, boom, ka. And that's the same thing that happens with the conical. It's like a teacher teaching a student how to play an Indian drum, and they use vocal syllables to show them how to play the drum. That's kind of how it works. And then that gets formalized into sort of Indian classical music. And those syllables become sort of a repertoire of sounds and syllables to make music. And you can see it down here in Lisa Young's song that she's demonstrating that use of it. Something else you might need to know is this concept of the tala. So having a look up here, the rhythm meter is the tala, and then that can be marked using some hand symbols. Oops, sorry, up there. I've redacted that, by the way, taken out some stuff that maybe doesn't matter so much. So yeah, that's what the tala is, rhythmic meter, and can be indicated by hand gestures. Gestures. Trading is something that happens in this song. Now, we first discovered that in Ella Fitzgerald's song Take the A Train, and that was trading between the two trumpets. You can see that here, and it's a common jazz thing where they would play a solo for 4 bars and then someone else plays a solo for 4 bars. Often it's the drums, so the trumpet would play a solo for 4 bars, the drums play a solo for 4 bars, and that goes on and on. That's called trading. Scatting, again, we've also done a few times. So we started with Louis Armstrong way back in the day last year when he did wah 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 scatting, and then Ella Fitzgerald did her scatting, which is nonsense syllables making a solo. So that's an important concept in this song as well. And chord extensions. So extensions are really when you go above the 7th. So if we made an F major 9, let's make an F dominant 9. So this 9th is an extension, the 11th is an extension, the 13th is an extension, and we might do something like, I don't know, sharpen the 9th or sharpen the 11th, flatten the 13th. That would be a pretty wild chord, that one there. So that's what extensions are, 9, 11 or 13. All right, let's get into the actual song. So we'll talk about some of the innovations of this song. And I think there's 2 main innovations here, which Lisa Young actually writes about in the composer's part of the score. So first up, you've got a distinctive feature is the incorporation of pitched conical. So in the what would we say, the introduction, we get the normal traditional use of conical vocal percussion syllables where it's just not pitched. And then in the melody, we get a melody using those same vocal percussion syllables. And so that's her innovation there, is to pitch that, because usually you wouldn't need to pitch it. Again, using like Western drums, you wouldn't try and pitch boom, ka, usually. So that's what she's done there. That's one of her innovations. And then the second innovation is to really use those vocal percussion syllables to make her own scat syllables that she can use in a jazz context. So, Louis Armstrong, he kind of just used wah wah wah. Ella Fitzgerald kind of expanded that to use more stuff like this. And then you can see that this is Lisa Young's stuff, and she's got a lot more syllables that she can use to scat and, I guess, add to the percussive texture of the song. Okay, what's next? Let's talk about the form of this song. So we've kind of got a vocal percussion intro, and then we just get into the melody. But in jazz, and this is kind of jazz, we call this just a head. So then we have a 16-bar head. Then we have, I guess we would call it a riff section. Not a guess, it is a riff section. We call it a riff. What's this section here? I don't actually know really what we call this. This is kind of like a solo over the riff, I think. I'm not actually totally sure if that's what it is or not, but I think it's a vocal solo over the riff, but it kind of looks like it's written out. So something like that. What's this section? Oh, this is trading, where we're doing a trading solo. This is a guitar solo. Then we have a Vox solo. And then we finish with the ed. Except this time we're in the key of D. So I guess it modulates to the subdominant at the end there. I'm not totally sure why it does that. Maybe because the solo has been on A for so long that it just felt like another melody in A was too much, and so it modulates up to the subdominant or up to D and does the melody in D. So nice little touch there. Next, we have melody. Okay, so we've kind of got 4 phrases in this melody. So we've got this starting phrase here, which is kind of a unique phrase. And then we have 3 phrases that are all pretty similar. This one, and this one are all kind of similar or linked. So maybe it'd be like A, B, B, B as a phrase sort of concept. And then we start over here on the 3rd and we finish on the 3rd. And I guess that gives it a fairly unresolved feeling to the melody. So much so that you'll see that the B section, which is really just one note, tries to resolve on the A, or does resolve on the A. And then at the end, just remembering that we're in the key of D major here, you can see that because that 3rd doesn't resolve, they added this little tag on and resolve on the tonic. Because otherwise the end of this thing here doesn't sound like it's resolved. So yeah, that's kind of the melody there. Rhythm, I guess the key sort of rhythmic concept that comes through is this accenting of the 2 and. So if we went 1, 2, and you can see there's an accent there and there. And the same thing happens throughout the piece. We go 1, 2, and again, I mean, we go 3, 4, and like that. Or depending on how you think of it, I guess this could just be 1, 2, and again. So it's kind of like minim pulse. You could think of it like that. So it's really emphasizing 2 and all the way through. There's not really triplets or any of the tuplets or anything like that through the piece. And you know, just as a bit of a weird side note, I studied a bit of this conical language myself when I went to university. And one of the limitations that we found when trying to implement it is that there's not a great concept of resting. And so you'll find throughout the piece, there's not actually a lot of rest. Most of the space is filled up with sort of vocal percussion, which kind of makes sense. A drum beat never really rests. So yeah, just an interesting little side note there. Definitely not accessible content, what I just said then. Okay, all right, next. Texture. I haven't done texture in any of the other videos, so exciting moment. I thought we could join the dot kind of thing like primary school. Well, monophony, a single melody, well, that kind of happens here in the introduction. I mean, it kind of happens. It's kind of percussion, but close enough, we'll call it. Homophony, different color, thank you. Melody with accompaniment, which happens here in the head. Polyphony, multiple melodies at the same time. Here we've got a riff happening and then another melody sort of happening up there. So close enough. And then heterophony, nothing is done in heterophony, get rid of it. It's not true. Canons are done in heterophony, I guess. So yeah, I mean, these texture ideas really work better with Western art music than contemporary and jazz music, because that's what they're designed for. But you know, there's some ideas for you. You never know, you might get a question about it one day. Style. All right, so we've kind of got here Ella Fitzgerald's Take the A Train, and I put that in there because that's a real classic jazz. You know, it's got a head melody, it's got swing, which we can see in this drum pattern, ting, 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 ting. It's got a walking bass, it's got staccato comping, it's got some improvisation, which happens out here. It's got extensions in these chords, and it's arranged. So that all makes it pretty classic jazz, or a really good example of the genre of jazz. Contemporary jazz tends to have a head still, so yes, tick. It tends to be straight because it combines contemporary music with jazz, and contemporary music tends to be straight, so it's straight. The bass line tends to be broken up. The comping tends to be a bit more legato and connected. Do I have enough space? So rather than this kind of we get this kind of that sort of sound. What is it? Triadic. So rather than extensions, it tends to be triad. So rather than a D 13 sharp 11, you might get E over D, which is basically the same thing, but it takes out the 7th and the 3rd. So rather than this sound, you get this sound. So just a slightly more triadic kind of sound. And contemporary jazz tends to be highly arranged. And so I guess that Tarin Tar definitely comes from this contemporary jazz land. Maybe it's got like a bit more contemporary in it than jazz, and then fused with the Southern Indian vocal percussion or conical kind of stuff. So that would be its style and genre. Fair bit there for you to work through. The timbre or the timbre. Well, the timbre or the timbre, I guess, the instrumentation is what you can see here, kind of a jazz drum kit. It's a jazz drum kit because it's kind of missing a tom there, and often the jazz guys miss that tom so they can get better access to the ride cymbal, because in jazz you use a lot of ride cymbal. We've got a jazz guitar and we've got a double bass, so these are kind of a jazz trio setting. Now the song is also set to choir and small groups, so you can do that. It's a little bit difficult to tell how what the overall meaning of the song is. I'm not totally sure what the overall meaning of the song, so it's hard to assess which instrumentation is better or worse. For me, the song has to do with rhythm and dancing a little bit because of that conical connection. So to me, the choir setting doesn't seem to make quite as much sense as the quartet setting. I don't know. There's a what's it, idea for you. Do with that what you will. Compositional devices. We've got a riff. A repeated figure in the bass part. I mean, it's a pretty long riff, but it's a riff. It's almost a montuno, but that's not really accessible. But yeah, montuno or a riff or an ostinato. Have I got any more of these? Oh, I've got a reverse pedal point. I've just made that up. I don't think that's a thing, but it's just an interesting sort of concept that the chord on the top stays the same. So even this one here is really just A over F. So that's kind of like a reverse pedal point. I guess I made that up. Loose ends, bits and pieces. This chord here, that's the symbol for augmented. So if I was in treble clef, that would be 1, 3, raised 5th. Oh, that's a bit ugly. So 1, 3, 5, raise the 5th. And there's that note there, that C sharp. So that's what an augmented chord is. Slash chord, so that means to play the D triad in the right hand, or in the high part, I guess, and then a C note in your left hand. That's and a slash chord is different to a chord like that. That's a polychord, which means play 2 triads. This little thing here is called a como sopra repeat, which means repeat whatever came beforehand. So in this case, repeat this chord. But it could mean repeat the drum beat before, or repeat anything beforehand. You've got to pause, which everyone knows about, or fermata, and finish the song. What's next? Trading. Oh, this is just a note. I just noticed this on the cover page. See, it says here that the trading is composed. So, yeah, I'm not actually sure what that means. Maybe it's not true trading, it's a composed trading. So something to think about there. All right, some questions. What questions might you get? Here we go. These are some of Scarza's suggested questions. Define the term tala. Well, that's meter. And maybe we'd say something about the hand symbols. I don't know. I guess I would because it's a 2-mark question. Yeah. Describe 2 characteristics that are innovative. Well, the innovations were using pitched conical and using syllables to add to the scat. So that's going to be difficult, isn't it? Because these questions don't ask about it. So I guess maybe the combination of a jazz trio with vocal percussion or Indian vocal percussion, that would be the timbre. the rhythm, I guess, because I don't know, I'm just going to put conical. I'm just guessing. I don't know the other ones. I'm sorry. I don't know what the other innovations are. All right, moving on. Describe the use of harmony in the head compared to the open solo. Okay, well, the harmony in the head was A, and then it had this descending G, F sharp, F, E, and in the solos we had A7 sharp 11, I think it was, and that was it. So it's a 3-mark question, so I guess you would have to write a bit more than that. I would say that the one's moving, one's stationary, one's descending chromatically, one isn't, one uses extensions, one's triadic. That's probably enough. All right, done. I give myself 3 marks. The 2 main influences. That's easy. That would be jazz, or modern jazz, but jazz and call. Have I spelled it differently every time? Probably. And then show those influences in the piece. Make sure you do the whole identify examples. Make sure you answer the question. And then, must be getting towards the end. I describe conical. Well, vocal percussion. Ooh, vocal percussion. Nailed it. Okay. Don't know why my pen stopped working. We're done. This is the piece we're doing next time. Don't get ahead of yourself. All right. Hope that was helpful, and I'll see you soon.